So it turns out that Tesla sales in Europe are continuing to crash into Q2 2025. Electric has the news here. Tesla sales continue to crash in Europe despite new Model Y. So the Model Y refreshes out. It's fully available, but sales in Europe are continuing to crash. That's the news we're going to look at today. Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome back to the channel. Let's get into it. Well, first, this headline as well. Tesla is the only EV brand with negative perception, and it's getting worse. That is the second story we'll look at, but let's get back into the first one. In 2024, Tesla delivered 11% fewer vehicles in Europe compared to 2023, despite having ramped up production at its Gigafactory Berlin, where it produces Model Ys for the European market. While this was already a bad sign for Tesla, and it was, sales started to decline at a much sharper rate in 2025 compared to an already bad 2024. So this is not a new thing. This has been going on for quite some time now, and it's been accelerating. But in Q1 2025, Tesla sales in Europe declined 37% compared to Q1 2024, which is huge. And Tesla shareholders were holding on to the theory that the decline was almost entirely attributable to the Model Y changeover. That was the excuse, that Model Y is being refreshed, people are waiting, it's not ramped up properly. But it's becoming obvious that that really isn't the case. The automaker updated the design and some features of the Model Y, its best-selling car, limiting availability as it updated production lines in the first quarter. And this reportedly is the biggest selling car in the world, so it has been selling a lot. It must indeed have had an impact, and Tesla also blamed the Model Y changeover for lower deliveries in Q1 during its earnings call last week. However, it also stated that production is now back to normal in April, and yet Tesla sales continue to decline in Europe. So that excuse does not apply anymore. It seems that it's got bigger problems, as many of us suspected, with the brand damage that has happened from Elon supporting far-right political parties and politicians in Europe. And Europe does not like that, given the 20th century history of that in Europe. Within the 5 European markets that report car registrations daily, Tesla is not only tracking down about 50% from the same period in 2024, that's Q2 2024, but it is also tracking behind its terrible Q1 2025, despite having the new Model Y. So that is definitely some terrible results. 50% down from the same period in 2024, but also behind Q1 2025. So last quarter, it's even worse than that. And we can see this graph here so far. As the results are coming in, you can see that dark blue line there is coming in lower than the quarter before and against last year, where it was much better than that. So really not going well for Tesla in Europe. We are also starting to have some monthly numbers from other European markets. So, not all the numbers are in yet. Europe's a big market, of course, with different countries. In France, Tesla reportedly delivered only 863 vehicles in April. That's down 59% year over year and down 24% from the first month of Q1 2025. So, down 24% from the last quarter, or the comparable month last quarter. In Denmark, the automaker has delivered only 180 vehicles in April. That's down a staggering 67% compared to April 2024 and 59% from January 2025, when Tesla did not yet have the new Model Y. Wow. In Portugal, Tesla delivered only 239 vehicles in April based on registration data. That's down 47% year over year and down 39% from the first month of Q1 2025. Most data from European countries is expected to be released in the coming days. We'll look forward to seeing, the full picture, but it's not looking good so far. With the full data set to be made available later this month. In Q1 2025, Tesla's 37% decline in sales in Europe coincided with a 24% surge in battery electric car sales. So while the whole market is going up 24%, Tesla is going down a lot. These same things happening. So you can't say it's the macroeconomic situation, which Elon pointed to. But this is not the case because electric cars are on the rise. People still like electric cars. Liberals in particular like electric cars still. They're just not into Tesla. That's what it's turning out to be. And this seems to be ongoing well into 2025. This is rapidly looking like a demand collapse for Tesla amid a surge in BEV sales from competitors in Europe, Electric says. Whenever you have a market leader rapidly losing market share in a surging market, it's a massive red flag, they say. And I agree. Tesla, the market leader there, it has been. People were saying, where's the competition? Where's the competition? The competition is coming, joking about that. But it's well and truly here. And, Europe is strong on car making. And it looks like that Tesla is suffering from a number of different angles. Tesla shareholders have been holding on to the idea that it was all due to the Model Y changeover, that refresh, but that hope is fading because it's available and people still aren't buying. It looks like Tesla's sales are not doing much better right now, despite the new Model Y being in inventory. So, yes, it's available. And here we see that you can get a new Model Y delivered today in France, available today. Sure, the RWD rear wheel drive versions are coming just next month and should help a bit with volume, but Tesla has even more competition down market with Model Y. The fact that the all-wheel drive is not selling in significant numbers should be extremely worrying, and I'd say that Elon will see this. He gave some excuses on the earnings call, but it's really not looking good. Tesla is being squeezed out of the European market in large part due to most consumers' dislike for its CEO. In fact, on the graph that they had in the earnings report, they skipped the European sales. They cut it off when they could have reported it on the graph. It was for China and the US, but they cut it off in Europe, and it was probably because it was a big crash in Q1. It was very interesting to see that. Now, this other article, Tesla is the only EV brand with negative perception, and it's getting worse. Tesla is the only EV brand with a net negative brand perception, according to the Electric Vehicle Intelligence Report, and much of the negative shift has happened in the last 6 months. Gee, I wonder what's happened in the last 6 months. Could it be that Elon went into Doge? He was a big supporter of MAGA, and people don't like what he's doing at Doge. And of course, back in the end of January, did those salutes that people didn't like, especially people in Europe, because what it signified, and Elon does know that. I mean, was it an accident, really? And he backed it up with supporting far right parties in Europe, so it seems pretty obvious. The Electric Vehicle Intelligence Report surveyed 8,000 US consumers to ask them questions about electric vehicle purchasing decisions, both asking about brands and finding out what they value in an EV purchase. We'll take a look at that detail, but in the meantime, if you're getting value out of this episode so far, I really appreciate you hitting that like button to help the algorithm to spread it to more people. It really does help. Thanks. And yes, here we see the most notable result of the survey is that consumers had the most negative view of Tesla. And in fact, Tesla is the only brand in the survey which received a net negative brand image. And we can see down there, Tesla at the bottom, minus 13. We can see those other brands there. Honda actually at the top. Now, VinFast, that's got a 0. People weren't really aware of that brand. That was part of it, a big part of it. They're just not aware of it. But BMW second there, Chevrolet, Audi, Ford, Porsche. So a lot of those ones up the top. But really a negative for Tesla for sure. And according to the survey, the drop in Tesla brand perception has been quite recent. EVIR asked how views of Tesla had changed over the last 6 months. 46% said their opinion hadn't changed, but a total of 38% of people had a more or much more negative perception versus 16% who had a more or much more positive perception. So the perception of Tesla's gone way down. I think we all know if you watch this channel, I've been reporting on it, for the past 6 months and more about how it's gone down, what's happened to Tesla, and what Elon's been doing, what he says on X all the time. He did those salutes and people didn't like that, and he said it was an accident, but he backs it up with far right politics on his Twitter, and he backed far right politicians in Europe, which is probably the reason that the perception is so bad. The brand damage for Tesla has been enormous. I think that's just my opinion. We'll see as it plays out. We'll see what happens in this coming quarter and after that. They've got the robotaxi launch. People are pinning their hopes on that. Investors are pinning their hopes on robotaxis and later robots and saying the cars don't matter. But the fact is that that's where their biggest revenue comes from, and it's declining significantly in Europe anyway. And we'll have to see about other areas too, what happens, especially in the US. Now, what do you think about this? Do you think that the perception of Tesla is going to remain here and sales will continue to decline? I mean, they've come down a lot. Do you think they'll stabilize or go down even more? It's a huge amount in Europe. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens in Europe in this coming quarter. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that Tesla is basically finished because of this? Can the brand damage be repaired? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a related video right there. Do go and see that now if you want to. And also a subscribe link on the screen. Do subscribe if you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet. And thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.